When it comes to competitive exams, a handful of grammar questions can make all the difference. And you know what the biggest troublemaker is? Verbs. They are absolute masters of disguise. But today, we're going to pull back the curtain and uncover all their secrets. This is going to help you ace your next test. So let's dive right in with a classic trap.
Okay, let's start with a little puzzle. Take a look at this sentence. Knowing the situation will help you. Now, is knowing a verb? I mean, that ing at the end just screams verb, doesn't it? But, well, that's exactly the trap that so many people fall for on exam day.
And that leads us right into our first big myth, what I like to call the ing imposter. It's this idea that any word ending in ing must be an action verb. But, as you're about to see, making that assumption can be a really dangerous move. So, back to our puzzle, what's the real verb in that sentence? It's actually will help. Think about it. The word knowing isn't performing an action here. Instead, the whole idea, the concept of knowing the situation, that's the subject of the sentence. It's the what that will help you. So what you call a verb that's dressed up and pretending to be a noun?
It's called a gerund. Seriously, the best way to think about it is like a verb wearing a noun's costume. It looks like a verb with that ing form, but it's doing a noun's job, acting as the subject or object. And this is a super important concept in English. A word's job in a sentence matters way more than what it looks like.
Looking at them side by side like this makes it crystal clear. He is swimming. That's an action happening right now. That's a verb. But swimming is good exercise. See how we're talking about the idea of swimming? That's our gerund, acting as a noun. Same word, totally different jobs. Okay, now that we've unmasked that imposter, let's check out another one of the verb's disguises.
So, we've seen how verbs can pretend to be nouns, but they're not one-trick ponies. Oh no, they have another trick up their sleeve. Sometimes, a word that looks just like a past tense verb is actually a chameleon, just blending in and playing a totally different role.
All right, another puzzle for you. Let's look at the word spoken in two very different sentences. First, this was spoken by him. And second, the college introduced spoken English classes. Now, in that first sentence, spoken is definitely part of the action, right? But what about in the second one? Is it still a verb there? And the answer is nope. In this case, the verb has put on a brand new disguise. It's now acting as a participle. This is what happens when a verb form like the V3 past tense starts moonlighting as an adjective. Its new job is to describe a noun. It's a verb doing a describing word's job. Pretty cool, huh?
Let's look at this example. The ship has sunk. Tells us about an action that happened in the past. Simple enough. But a sunken ship uses that same root verb to describe the ship. Sunken is now an adjective, telling us what kind of ship it is. The exact same logic applies to a developed country versus the country has developed. One is describing a state, the other is describing an action.
And you'll basically see two main types of these. The present participle, using that familiar ing ending, describes something that's still going on. A developing country is still in the process of developing. Then you have the past participle, which usually ends in ed or en. This describes something that's already finished. A developed country has already reached that state.
Okay, it's time for our final and maybe the trickiest disguise of all. The passive voice trap. This one trips up even really good students, and it's usually because of one little, very misleading word that sets the perfect trap in exam questions. Just take a look at this sentence. He has been ill. For so many people, that word been is like a giant, flashing red light that screams passive voice. But is it really? Let's break down the rules so you never, ever get this wrong again.
Here's the secret. The key isn't the word been, it's the word that comes right after it. If been is followed by a state of being, like a noun or an adjective, for instance, ill, the sentence is active. But if been is followed by a past participle verb, an action word like given, then you've got the passive voice. And why? Because it means someone else is doing the action to the subject.
So here it is, your simple three-step hack for exam day. Step 1, find has, have, or had. Step 2, make sure the word been is right after it. And step 3, this is the most important one, check the very next word. Is it a V3 action verb? If the answer is yes, you've caught the passive voice red-handed. If not, it's active. It's really that simple.
So, just by busting these three super common myths, you've armed yourself with a powerful secret weapon for your grammar exams. You can now see right through the verb's cleverest disguises, and that's going to turn those tricky questions into easy points. I mean, think about what's in your new toolkit now. You can spot a gerund when it's posing as a verb. You can identify a participle when it's disguised as a past action. And you can finally, and confidently, tell the difference in the passive voice trap. These are the kinds of skills that separate the good scores from the great ones.
Here's the bottom line. Verbs are so much more versatile than we usually give them credit for. They're not just simple action words. They're shapeshifters, able to work as nouns, as adjectives, the whole shebang. And now that you know their secrets, you're ready. You can spot them, no matter what costume they're wearing.